Hello everyone, Brother Al McClaney with this week's stewardship video. And as always, before we go too far, here's the disclaimer. No advice should be seen as a recommendation, as I'm not a licensed financial advisor. It's for educational purposes only. So you want to do your own research. If you have a financial advisor, well, that's what they're there for. So this week's video, I was kind of struggling with, and then God just put on my spirit, and this just shows how he puts things together because there's a dynamic video that I want you to watch as part of this presentation. I did it on the Super Bowl. So the Super Bowl is right around the corner. It'll be on Sunday. I'm rocking my Dallas Cowboys shirt, just I guess for nostalgic reasons, because we know we haven't been in the Super Bowl in years, but got the Patriots versus the Seahawks. And one of the things that happens during the Super Bowl that you'll get a lot of uh, coverage around it is the Super Bowl ads. And there's actually a website where you can look at all the different ads from all different years. And there's one that's out there that you can do for 2026. But before we go too far into that part of it, I wanted to focus on the area of contentment because that's what kind of prompted me is that those ads and advertising in itself is designed in some places to have you discontent with something that you have. So you go out and of course buy things. And sometimes you buy things on credit. But here's First Timothy 6 verses 6 through 10 in the New Living Translation. It says, "Yet true godliness with contentment is itself great wealth. After all, we brought nothing with us when we came into the world, and we can't take anything with us when we leave." And here's I put for emphasis, so if we have enough food and clothing, let us be content. And then verse 9 says, "But people who long to be rich fall into temptation, are trapped by many foolish and harmful desires that plunge them into ruin and destruction." So a 30-second ad for a Super Bowl is running an average of 8 to 10 million dollars. Now, you know the advertisers or those who are companies that are using this are not going to pay that kind of money unless they're going to get some um, customers, if you will, to buy their product. And so here's a screenshot I captured of that website I told you about. And here's Rocket Mortgage. So this could be going to the temptation into foolish things to say you can't afford that house, or you're buying too much house, right? You're going into debt over it, and you could be in a house that's fine, but you've become discontent. You're looking at the commercial and you see that. And by the way, the commercials in and in themselves are not, I'm saying, evil. But what I'm saying is that if we let our desires pull us away and do things that are destructive to our financial, then that's outside of God's will. So right on that same screenshot, right below it, there is a commercial that the people throughout the years, I think it's the Hobby Lobby CEO that or owner that's ran these commercial about he gets us. Well, take a look at this year's commercial, and I think this is pretty powerful.
The one who dies with the most toys wins.
50 million Americans can't be wrong because winning is more fun.
Your smile is brighter than snow.
Look at this amazing demonstration.
I want to feel more beautiful.
In a search that has continued for centuries and its promise of more and more.
I'll be the talk of the town.
You've got to learn to get more pleasure out of this. Get more pleasure out of this.
Here come more daredevil drivers full of fantastic tricks.
This just in. You don't want to be less. A series on the changing American market. Come consumer.
You've got to learn to get more pleasure out of this. Get more pleasure out of this.
I just thought that was a powerful commercial, and it just shows how God puts things together. As I said, I was struggling with what is going to be the topic, and then I said, okay, quit struggling, let God. And he put this in my spirit of Super Bowl. And then from there, start researching, looking at the ads, and then you saw on that screenshot was the Rocket Mortgage one. And then here's the one screenshot of he gets us. And so I went out and looked at the video, and it was talking about how consumption is not the answer. The answer is Jesus. And then our discontentment, the answer is not to go buy more and more and more or get into debt. It's Jesus. And that's what, the whole premise of the foundation of the stewardship videos that we've been doing. Again, I thought that was just a powerful, powerful commercial. So
The
let's go
one
ahead and change uh, emphasis, if you will, focus, and let's look at the market. February 9th, a lot just like last week, a lot of big companies that are reporting it will affect most likely the overall market and direction. We've got speaking of consumer purchases, we got Coca-Cola, we got Robinhood, which is in the area of uh, stock buying. It gets into brokerage. Got Spotify, Shopify, Coinbase, Moderna, just a lot. McDonald's. There's a lot of companies that are reporting in February, week of February 9th, and I expect it will have an influence on the market like we saw last week. We saw technology just really crash. I did recover a little bit on Friday, and we'll show that in our chart as we always do toward the end. And I'm not going to go into like any type of specific investments this week. Just want to focus on that contentment and on that piece regarding the spiritual foundation portion of the video. But let's look at how we're doing year to date. Up still slightly 1.3%, even with the huge sell off we had last week. Technology is down 2%, even though that was a huge sell off, specifically in the technology area. But you see how the market's kind of starting to get a little into a defensive posture. And these are the traditional places that the market goes when there's things that happen, volatility, sell off. People go to investments like consumer staples. It's up 13%. Energy is up 19%. And remember last year, energy was struggling. So that's sometimes kind of that rotation. There was a group called the Dogs of the Dow. And the way they would invest is they would look at the worst things from the previous year and then invest in that. And each year they would switch the investments to the worst thing. And a lot of times they were able to get large profits because there's a market rotation. The other thing in materials and industrials, that could be the buildup, if you will, of companies um, building and in this administration trying to get companies to build factories here. So consumer staples, healthcare tends to be another defensive area, and utilities. We know that was big last year. So as we always do, closing out, looking at the overall market, QQQ is technology focused. And look at that huge drop off last week. Recovered on Friday with a huge buying, but it didn't recover all of the drop off or the sell off that happened. But again, we're still in that channel, still in that box. Here's SPY. Same thing. Still, it kept its upper edge versus what you saw QQQ going down to the lower edge of that box of that channel. But it sold off, but not as much as technology because there's a lot of other companies that are in the SPY that make it up. And then, of course, big buying opportunity that happened on Friday. So that's it for this week's stewardship video. Again, I just thought, I just want to give praise to the Lord on is putting that all together and then bringing my attention to it and how that just worked when it came to he gets this video to the screenshot that has like Rocket Mortgage. And then there's that video, which, hey, here's the answer. So consumption is not the answer. The answer is Jesus. And as always, that's this week's stewardship video. We'll see you next week. In with, hey, there's my cowboy paraphernalia, I guess, just for nostalgia's sake. We'll see you next week. Oh, sorry, I almost didn't end with, as always, remember Jesus is Lord, and therefore he's the owner, but we're playing the role of the faithful steward. So that's the proper end.